Right now on Hoosier News Source, Bloomington's response to the body cam footage of Tyre Nichols' encounter with police.
And how the university is grieving the late Professor Kimberly Giesland. From Bloomington, Indiana, you're watching Hoosier News Source.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier News Source. I'm Karlie Flanagan.
And I'm Chloe Ferguson.
Memphis police released the body cam footage showing the arrest of Tyre Nichols, a 29-year-old man who died after being beaten by police. The footage shows Memphis police officers pulling Nichols over for allegedly driving recklessly and trying to detain him, during which he fled. The following confrontation resulted in Nichols being severely kicked, punched, and beaten with a baton. Nichols died 3 days later in the hospital. The videos sparked outrage across the country, even among city officials and law enforcement. Both the mayor of Bloomington and the chief of Bloomington Police issued statements. Chief Dickoff said, quote, "Officers take an oath to serve all members of our community with respect, honor, and integrity. The 5 former Memphis police officers violated their oath and have tarnished the badges of officers nationwide." Both the mayor and the chief of police said they will continue training Bloomington officers to de-escalate situations and hold fellow officers accountable.
Last week, IU Provost Rahul Shrivastava sadly announced the passing of Professor Kimberly Giesland. Giesland taught in the Spanish and Portuguese department and served as the vice provost for faculty and academic affairs. Also during her time at IU, she spent 8 years as the director of the Hispanic Linguistics program. Her research focused on second language acquisition of Spanish. Giesland advocated for female faculty as well as other underrepresented communities on campus. According to Giesland's professor colleagues,
her kindness is what, was a highlight of her personality. So she would be there to help you. At the same time, she was rigorous on her, guidance to students. So
Our thoughts are with Professor Giesland's family and the IU community during this difficult time.
The Indiana Graduate Workers Coalition is set to rally tomorrow outside of Owen Hall. The rally comes as master's students in history department were informed that they will no longer be classified as an SAA, a student academic appointee. Starting next year, the university will consider them hourly workers and they will see changes to benefits including health insurance and fee remissions. The rally begins at 11 a.m.
The Indiana Supreme Court will not consider a challenge to the state's abortion ban on the basis that it violates some religious freedoms. The issue will be left to an appeals court. In December, a lower court sided with residents that claimed the ban infringes on their beliefs. That decision was appealed by the State Attorney General's office. The lawsuit was originally filed by the American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana on behalf of residents who hold Muslim, Jewish, and other faiths after the ban was enacted by Republican state lawmakers.
Kappa Sigma fraternity will return to campus 4 years after the national headquarters closed its charter at IU. The Kappa Sigma national headquarters said alcohol and hazing violations were the reason for removing their charter here. They also cited a 2018 membership review report as a reason for closing the chapter. The national headquarters will be in charge of recruiting new members since there are no remaining members of Kappa Sigma on campus. Now for the latest on this week's weather, Kayla Craig is here to tell us what to expect. Kayla.
Thanks, Karlie. Today is going to be a chilly one. We'll start off the day below freezing with some clouds, and we'll reach our high of 33 around 4 p.m. before it cools back down as the sun sets. Let's take a look at our game day forecast. Purdue will pay his visit to Assembly Hall on Saturday for a warmer day than we've seen recently, but it'll still be breezy throughout the day, especially once the game starts, making it feel cooler. Let's see what to expect for the rest of the week. Thursday night temps will fall down to the teens to bring us a chilly Friday, but the cold doesn't want to seem to stick around. We'll warm up into this weekend, continuing into next week where we've got some chances of rain. Stay safe and have a great week. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Kayla. Coming up on Hoosier News Source, we'll give you a look at the man behind one of IU's most iconic places.
And did you have trouble with Ticketmaster trying to get Taylor Swift tickets? We'll tell you how they're facing legal action because of it. Welcome back to Hoosier News Source. Brookelyn Lambright joins us in the studio with the latest on international news. Brooklyn?
Thanks, guys. On Friday, a synagogue in Israel was attacked, leaving 7 dead and 3 wounded. A single gunman started shooting in a synagogue on Neve Yaakov Street around 8:15 Friday evening. He fled the scene and later police forces killed him during a shootout. Police say the gunman was a 21-year-old man from East Jerusalem. The Israeli Prime Minister is urging residents not to participate in revenge attacks. On Saturday, former Army Chief Petr Pavel won the Czech Republic's presidential election. Pavel won nearly 58% of the votes against Andrej Babis. This was his first time running for office. Pavel ran as an independent but gained most of his support from the center-right government. Pavel said, quote, "Values such as truth, dignity, respect, and humility won," end quote. Pavel supports keeping the Czech Republic in the EU and NATO and will continue to support aid to Ukraine. Pavel is set to take office in March. Protests have broken out in Peru after their Congress rejected a motion to move the date of the country's next presidential election. Protesters have been demanding a new presidential election since last December when former President Castillo was removed from office. In 7 weeks of protests, 47 people have been killed in clashes with security forces. President Boluarte is urging Congress to move the election to this December in order to mend a deepening political divide. However, after moving the election from 2026 to 2024, Peru's Congress hesitates to move it again. That's what's going on around the world. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Brooklyn. A trip to Indiana University seems incomplete without taking a picture in between the famous sample gates. But making them a reality for the campus took the right man in over 150 years.
Standing at the entryway of campus, the limestone arches welcome everyone from students to alumni.
They kept on thinking, well, we need to have some kind of gates, some kind of entranceway, right? We need to have some kind of something that really sets things apart.
The original blueprints for the gate date back to the 1870s, but nothing could be agreed upon for years.
People didn't probably think that, well, something is missing. Well, no, it's like, once you see it, it's like, yeah, it makes good sense.
Eventually, Edson Sample, former director of financial aid, presented the money and the blueprints for the gates that now welcome students to campus every single day.
They fit exactly right.
For many Hoosiers, the sample gates have been considered to be a staple here on campus for as long as they can remember. But what if I told you just over 35 years ago, they were never even here?
I definitely had no idea how special it was to campus when I'm from Ohio, so I had no idea that it was big like this. And it's literally printed on everything.
Edson passed away recently in early December. Everything from signs to postcards to acceptance letters will forever honor the legacy of Edson and the entire Sample family.
This is the image of IU, right? The campus, or something about the campus.
Next time you walk through the iconic sample gates, make sure you remember the man behind the legacy.
And the latest from Congress involves the Senate hearing for the Taylor Swift Ticketmaster debacle, which started last Tuesday. Taylor Swift's fans were left disappointed for not being able to purchase tickets to her upcoming tour due to Ticketmaster experiencing internal issues. Ticketmaster, who is owned by Live Nation, canceled the general sale of Swift's tour tickets after their pre-sale left fans stuck in queues for several hours at a time. Some senators wrote to Ticketmaster after the incident, explaining their concerns about a lack of competition in the ticketing industry. In documents released by Ticketmaster, they are planning to argue for increased competition and increased anti-bot and fraud technology.
A Bloomington City traffic commissioner is under fire for several statements he posted to Twitter. Several community members opposed Greg Alexander's reappointment to the city's traffic commission after he made comments with explicit language and implications on his Twitter account. The post referred to the Elm Heights neighborhood and its residents after a traffic sign was put in against traffic commission's recommendations. The council is now speaking with the attorney administrator on their next steps. The IU men's and women's basketball teams had a strong weekend in Assembly Hall. Audrey Hausberger is here to tell us more on what went down. Audrey?
Thanks, Karlie and Chloe. Well, it was all Hoosier basketball this past weekend as both teams picked up solid wins against the Ohio State Buckeyes. And for the men, it was the freshman with all the moxie, Jalen Hood-Schifino, to lead the Hoosiers to their 5th straight win in a row. And he didn't even let the Buckeyes blink before he sank 6 3-pointers in the first half. Schifino landed atop the stat sheet with 24 points, and he was backed up by fellow freshman teammates Malik Renew and Caleb Banks, who both reached career highs off the bench. The Hoosiers walked away with an 86-70 win over OSU and are back in assembly on Saturday to face Purdue. The women also took down then number 2 Ohio State last Thursday 78-65 thanks to a crushing third quarter. The Hoosiers outscored OSU 27-6 in the third after freshman guard Yarden Garzone hit 3 3-pointers back to back. And on Sunday, the Hoosiers secured their 20th win of the season after defeating Rutgers 91-68. Graduate guard Grace Berger had her best game back from a knee injury, recording 21 points and 7 assists. The ladies are on the road tonight at Minnesota, tip-off 8 p.m. That's all for sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Audrey, and thank you for watching this week's episode of Hoosier News Source.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV News. I'm Chloe Ferguson.
And I'm Karlie Flanagan. From Bloomington, Indiana, we'll see you next time.